All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and hopefully at this point you've looked at the Get Started window here and you've taken a moment to sort of familiarize yourself with not only how to follow the class blog, but also a little navigation. And what I'd like to do now is do a little discussion about the course syllabus. All right. So next to the Get Started tab was a course syllabus. Now, if you highlight it, and there's a couple ways to access this. The first way, you'll see that there's a couple appendixes. But if you scroll down here, under this bar under course material, you'll see all the same things. They're just a little bit easier to click on. So either at the top or here, I'm going to go ahead and click on course syllabus. This is going to lead me to the page here, and you'll see that there at the very top here, we have a full version of the course syllabus, and I'll open this in a new tab. All right. And this is the standard plain text version of it for you, okay? So if you want to, you can look at this. If not, you want to have a little bit more flair to it, I also have the following piece down below here. Same information is contained in both. So we'll take a look at this one here. And so you'll see here at the very top, of course, summer 2019. And then here is some contact information for me. So here's my name. Here is my cell phone number. Now, you can text or call me. I would ask, though, that if you would respectfully not say call me after 10 p.m. in the evenings if you can. You can feel free to text me anytime. But be aware that as like any normal person, I do go to sleep, or I try to go to sleep at a reasonable time, and therefore if you text me at a certain late hour, there's no guarantee I will respond until a later time. Now, the same thing applies to email, and I want to go ahead and point out I've got 2 email addresses here that you can reach me at, and I try to reply to emails within 24 hours, and I typically find that this is the best way of communication. I kind of consider the cell phone thing to be kind of you have a panic situation or you really need an immediate answer kind of situation, okay? So just be respectful of the cell phone contact. You know, don't call me at 1:30 in the morning kind of thing, okay? You can text me later, but try to just, be generally respectful with it, okay? Now, underneath here, you'll see that I do have an office located on campus. And since most of this is going to be conducted online, I imagine that unless you happen to be on campus, you can make an appointment to come meet me there if you would like. Okay, and I make a note here that I'm in GTK, that's the Grace Thomas Kennedy building, room 208, and my office is actually located inside the English department, which is GTK 209. So just be aware that if you're counting numbers, it's right behind the elevator. My office hours now, starting sometime in June, I will actually be there in person on certain days, but these are the best times that I will try to make sure that I am fully available for you if you need to reach and talk to me, say via phone, or I'll be answering emails, that kind of thing. So you'll see here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 to 2 p.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 12, and then also from 2 to 4. And like I said, starting in June, some of these times will also be when I will be on campus. Starting sometime, I believe, around June 10th. I will be spending some of my time on campus, so I may be available. So these should also give you a basic reference point for when you might want to make an appointment if you want to come and see me in person. And then, of course, beneath here, we are already on this site, is the course blog, which all this will hopefully have led you from Moodle over to here. All right, now, underneath here, I've got course description and course requirements. Just course description is basically, this is a prerequisite that you should have taken English 101, ideally, and that this course is mainly focused on developing research skills, all right? Beneath here, if you had 101 this past year, you should probably already have this book, They Say, I Say, The Moves That Matter in Academic Writing with Readings, 4th edition. So if you still have it, great. We'll be referencing things from that book. Obviously, you'll want to access outside materials such as the Writing Commons and the Writing Lab at Purdue, which is really important because one of your final exam in this class will be focused on MLA. Also, you, of course, want to have internet access. Boy, what I hope you have that, or you'll be having problems right now. Now, when it says here, purchase or renting the graphic novel you select, I have actually made arrangements specifically for this course that I will talk about in another video about how we're going to handle that to try and make things easier because of our limited 6-week time frame. And I will be speaking more about this, but when it does say graphic novel, that is an important component because it's what you're going to be centering your research around. And like I said, I'll talk more about that. And then I'm a little less worried about the blue book. That's typically for my in-person class. Beneath here, of course, we have a course rationale, and this is all about succeeding in college and in the workplace, about effective communication, which is part of what this class is all into. Of course, we have course goals and course objectives, things that we will ideally, hopefully, be helping you gain access to or gain more proficiency in, such as being able to think critically, write critically, compose texts that respond to identified rhetorical situations, utilize the writing process to original compositions, recognizing yourself, in this case themselves, as contributors to knowledge, and appropriate documentation, citation formatting. And then obviously beneath here, the connected objectives that go along with this, such as students will summarize readings accurately, demonstrate competency in writing and analysis of research literary texts, produce writing that has gone through the feedback and revision process, demonstrate an understanding of academic integrity, and so forth. Now, beneath here is probably what you find a little bit more important and what's going to be more important for us. So you'll see here that class participation, quizzes, daily assignments, and reading assignments are accounting for 20% of your grade. All right. Now, that is important because we will be doing discussion forums centered around readings that we'll be having for the class, and these will sort of fill in for what we would normally do in a physical classroom. Typically, at the beginning of each week, what I will plan on doing is presenting to you, here are the things we're going to be discussing this week, which that will be posted here on this blog. Okay. And then from there'll be readings from which you will respond to as part of discussion forums. Those discussion forums will be on Moodle. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of a back and forth between this site and Moodle. If there needs to be, I typically don't do quizzes, but if there needs to be quizzes, because I'm suspecting the people aren't doing readings, again, that's something that will take place. The class participation will be part of those discussion forums and things of that nature. Now, underneath here, I have the major assignments, and these are all going to be tied into the research paper. Everything is going to connect here. You'll see that there's Report 1, Report 2, and Report 3. All right? Now, you'll see here that Report 1 is a summary and analysis of the graphic novel. Every one of these assignments I will go over in much more detail. I'll have a specific assignment sheets for these. Developing the research question and thesis statement for Report 2, and the annotated bibliography of potential sources. Now, all three of these will be tied into the graphic novel and the research you're doing. That's all tied into your research paper. And then the research paper itself actually has components to it, such as there will be a chance where you will do peer review, a rough draft, and a final draft. Okay, and this will be at the end of the semester. There will also be a group project set up that I will be arranging and establishing with you guys. And, of course, your final examination will be an MLA final exam based on documentation and citation methods that we will go over at different points. And so starting in week 1, we're going to go ahead and dive in. We'll talk about where to find. I've got a location for you guys to go and read potential graphic novels digitally online. What you will do there for me is you will read the graphic novel that you have selected. Okay, you'll need to make a selection, and you'll inform me of that selection. You'll then read the graphic novel, and from that you will develop a argument that you will make. So you'll write a summary analysis of the graphic novel. From that, ideally, you should come up with some ideas that should hopefully lead you to a research question and a thesis statement, which should guide your paper. And then ultimately, the annotated bibliography of potential sources will not only include your graphic novel, but other external sources that you will need to gather in order to effectively support your argument. And that will all be tying into the research paper. And of course, beneath here, we have our grading scale. And then beneath that, we have basic course policies and decorum. And then the classroom and other policies is more for my in-person classes, but I'll just briefly touch on it. Course policies and decorum, these still apply to an online classroom. You need to make sure that you have your specific textbooks and materials for your class meetings, which will be online, but you'll still need to have those. Ideally, I'd like you to communicate from a Claflin email account, but if you have another one that's more preferable, that's okay. Plagiarized work, about not accepting that and that being a serious issue. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that in conjunction with MLA formatting. It says here that you'll write at least 4 complete compositions. If you scroll back up here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the reports 1, 2, and 3, those are actually not very long. The summary analysis is really only a page. The research question and thesis statement is a page. The anti-bibliography might be somewhere between 2 to 3 pages, just depending on how many sources you have. And then, of course, the research paper itself will be the longest document, which I'll be looking for you guys to give me somewhere in the 6 to 9 page range total. All right. Scrolling back down here, students will maintain electronic files. I'd recommend that, a flash drive or the use of Google Drive, something on the cloud or Dropbox would be really something that if you've not invested in, it is worth your time. Students attending class in accordance with guidelines, that for us being an online class is going to really focus in on you needing to participate in the online discussion forums. That's how you're going to measure that class attendance and participation. And of course, that ties into this here, the class discussions and activities, so forth. Okay. Now, the decorum policy is a little bit less, basically, I don't expect you guys to dress to the 9 since you're doing this online. To be quite honestly, you'll probably be doing this in your PJs sometimes, and that's okay. And I'm not going to be able to regulate your cell phones or your other use of electronic devices because, of course, the laptop is something you're going to be needing to take this class in the first place. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about is the late work, and I do have a specific policy about late work. Apologize for my email popping up there in the top corner. But when it comes to late work, I have a standing policy. Most of your assignments will be due at 11:59 p.m. in the evening. Now, to elaborate on this, even though the deadline is 11:59 p.m., say on a Friday evening, as long as it has been, let's say you missed the deadline, typically the forums don't close, so you can still submit it late. Now, you can also email it to me. As long as it has been submitted to the forum or emailed to me before 8 a.m. the next morning, it is not late. So if you notice there's about an 8-hour window for if you need a little extra time. Okay. The other situation is that if something has prevented you from turning in your work, you may come and speak to me or make an appointment to come speak to me in person and explain the situation. And after hearing your explanation, I may or may not allow you to submit it. So there's 2 caveats going on here. Okay. Now, this covers the basic piece of the syllabus. There is some additional material. First of all, I've got Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C, D, E, F, and G. I just want to briefly touch on those. Appendix A, I'm not going to get into this, but this is just some general tips for success in, say, my classroom. You'll see here, read the syllabus, pay attention to any syllabus changes, purchase your textbook, pay attention to the schedule, and we'll be going over the class count or course calendar, at least the rough version of it, in a separate video. Attend class regularly, which for you guys is to show up and participate in the discussion forums, contribute in class, complete course assignments, turn in your assignments on time, keep a professional attitude, communicate with your instructor. Let me know if there's something going on or there's some kind of difficulty. Not telling me is kind of not the way you want to go on this. Use the right side of the writing center. Now, even though I don't know what the availability is, there is still a way to operate the writing center online, even though I'm not 100% certain if that's going to be available to you this summer. So I apologize for that. Remember that all writing is public and follow assignment directions. And I've got a general guideline here of some of the assignment directions I have. All right. Under Appendix B, it's just a brief rationale about why I approach graphic novels and why I'm using them in this class, such as accessing graphic novels. For you guys, I'm going to make this a little bit slightly different and easier. I talk about graphic novel selection and why we're going to do this, and I'm going to help you guys become familiar with how graphic novels work as part of our exposure to this gentleman here, Scott McCloud. We're going to be looking at some of his stuff as a way of helping you begin to familiarize yourself with it, because I do think there's a lot of interesting stuff that can be dug out of it. I'm not going to worry about the portfolios because that's not something we're going to concern ourselves with during this semester. The Appendix D, the rubric, this is a general rubric for how I approach most essays, and this does not necessarily include the information about specifically orientated to each assignment, but this should give you a general idea of things I'm looking for when I'm looking at your essays. Okay, so just at some point, take a moment to familiarize yourself with that. I'm going to skip the Writing Center for now and look at expectations and additional policies. This is the same thing. We've already looked at that. I forgot. I need that's a little redundant. And then, of course, just institutional policies about here at Claflin, both class attendance, early alert, disability statement. If for some reason you have any issues or things that need to be addressed or special concerns, please make sure you contact the office, the appropriate people with regards to that. And you can refer to that in the student handbook. Honor code. About this concerns about academic dishonesty, cheating, collusion, plagiarism. This goes into a little bit about this and the penalties concerning that. So please take a moment to look at those. All right. Now this concludes our little bit of discussion of course syllabus. Remember that all of this material is accessed either here or by one of these highlighted appendixes, and the same material is found here as well. We'll be talking about course calendar in another video, and there will be videos for all the course assignments and other materials as we reach them.